Hello, my good friends. 2.5 years ago, I launched my podcast, Leadership Synergized, with a focus on providing opportunities for you, today's leaders, to gain knowledge from individuals who have impacted lives in a positive and significant manner while serving others through a strengths-focused and values-based foundation. With this vision in mind, I am thrilled for you to have the opportunity to learn from the one and only Chris Robinson, the Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. During this episode, we will be diving into leadership mastery with an individual who has truly mastered leadership, an individual who has earned the respect of highly effective leaders around the world and is now adding a title to his resume, that of author. That's right, Chris Robinson is now an author. Not only will you gain knowledge from Chris's experience and lessons learned in this episode as a leader, but you will also be rewarded with the opportunity to gain his insight that has now become his first book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. I hope, my friends, that you're ready, and if you are, let's go meet and hear from the amazing Chris Robinson. Great advice. And we're speaking with Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. I know the name has changed the past couple of years, so Mr. Robinson will correct me where I misspeak in that regard. And we're hearing a bit about his leadership experience, and we're getting ready to talk in just a few moments about a really exciting time as Mr. Robinson's about to come out with an exciting book. We're going to dive into, the title of the book is Drift to Drive. And we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. But Mr. Robinson, before we do, just to get a little more of your expertise, one of the things I find with clients or individuals when I am out training or coaching is the struggle, in particular at the front line or the middle management piece in that aspect, where they battle not becoming something that their values aren't or their strengths aren't suited for because of maybe the expectations of the role, if you will, in that aspect. And I've had others in that regard talk about the difficulty in keeping work from becoming their worth. Could you maybe share some words of wisdom from your experiences there for individuals who may be battling that in their leadership career today?
Yeah, when it comes to, I guess, are you saying from the leader that's leading those people, or if you are a frontline person or a middle person?
The frontline or middle person.
Yeah, yeah. With the frontline person, and middle person, you got to ask yourself, what is it that you want? What is it that you want? And is this particular role line up with where you want to go? And if it doesn't line up, and I know you got to do what you have to do to get by, but always take a job for the experience, not the income when you're trying to get to where you want to go. I think of an example of, I remember interviewing a young lady that wanted to come to join this sales team. And at that time, I was a sales manager, and, I had great six-figure earning opportunities for very young people that didn't require, college education or anything of that nature. We would train them and we would equip them, and they'd make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, this lady comes to me and she says, well, hey, I said, well, what is it that you really want to do long term? She says, well, I want to be an airline mechanic. I stopped and I kind of looked around. It's like, well, what in the world are you doing here? I said, well, how is this going to help you become an airline mechanic? She says, well, she goes, if I make the money from this, I can then take this money to go to school to be an airline mechanic, and then I will then be able to transition to become an airline mechanic. Now, I declined to hire her that day and told her I was going to decline to hire her because this job had nothing to do with who she wanted to become. You see, too many times we think that we can just use something as a means to an end, and that actually prolongs you getting to where you want to go. So instead, what I recommended her do, I said, hey, look, I don't care if you have to go take a minimum hour job at something to do with airline mechanics. Get around airline mechanics. Get into some type of online course. Start to read some books on becoming an airline pilot, but do something that lines up with it versus thinking that you can use something completely over here to the left that's going to help you over here to the right. No, just start moving towards the right whenever you want to move in that direction. So I'd say to the front line and middle people, hey, is what you're doing right now lined up with where you want to go? If you're leading frontline and middle people, keep in mind that people aren't coming to the job simply because they love the job. All right. They're coming to the job each and every single day because they have dreams, goals, and visions. And this is a way for them to achieve those dreams, goals, and visions. And so, as a leader, it's our job to find out what are those goals, dreams, and visions. And we have to try to create those opportunities for them. So, as a leader, what I was always trying to do inside of a corporate setting was I wanted to figure out what is it that they're actually trying to achieve. Are they trying to buy a house? Are they trying to get a car because their car is not what they want? And I would go out of my way as a manager and as a consultant. Hey, this person can't get a car because their credit's bad. Well, hey, let me connect you with this credit consultant. Hey, this person's trying to get a house. Hey, have you spoke with the mortgage person yet? Have you spoke with the real estate agent yet? I'd connect them there. Because if I can help them reach their goals personally, they're going to be more proficient professionally. And so every single day, how are you making things better for your people, not just trying to get them to do what you want them to do?
I love that. Thank you, my friend. And let's shift gears a bit. So the new book, you're a few
Yeah,
months away, just a couple months actually, maybe almost
yeah,
three before it's released. And when I first saw the title, I'm looking and I see From Drift to Drive. I loved it.
yeah,
And then you look at the subtitle.
yeah,
It really, I was a bit surprised at the subtitle, but then as I thought of it, read it a second time, A High Achiever's Guide to Breaking the Chains of Complacency. And then I
yeah.
reflected back, I'm thinking, that's half my career, so to speak, if not all of it.
Right.
Congratulations, my friend. I know you're excited about the book,
I
and
am.
and I've had an opportunity to hear you speak just briefly a little bit about it, but wow, talk a little bit about what
Yeah.
led you to this point to write the book and share this framework.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very excited about this book and about the topic complacency because I think it's the greatest threat. Okay. A lot of people think the greatest threat to their success is failure, and
Mm.
that's what holds us back. But I believe the greatest threat to our future is complacency. Now, again, complacency is a word that's kind of got this, like, oh, I'm not a complacent person. And, it's associated with laziness or apathy, but it's not. I would imagine if you called anybody that knew me personally, they would say and said, hey, is Chris Robinson a complacent person? I'm guessing 99.9 of them would say, oh, no, he is not. He is active. He's a doer. He's going. He's always striving, driving. But let me tell you, I've got complacency in my life, and we all do. And so in the book, I redefine complacency. I give it a new definition. I define complacency as a secret place of satisfactory success. A secret place of satisfactory success. That place where, you're really good at something, and so you really haven't fine tuned it in a very long time. You've done something for a lot of years, and so you really don't have to do a whole lot to get by. It's kind of an autopilot without intention. And so if we look at the original word complacency, the root word stems from, and the definition is careless security. Careless security. So what we're all striving for is to get good enough to be comfortable. And then once we get comfortable and good, like we're okay. We just kind of settle in and things feel good. Things are all right. I don't have to really worry about this. But what we leave is a gap. We leave a gap because we can get good at something, but then we leave a gap between our good and our potential. And that gap between our good and our potential is great. And I'm so excited to help people explore that gap to go from good to great by overcoming complacency.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to read the full book. Talk a little bit now, looking ahead. I think the book released September 2nd. Is that correct on the
Yeah,
release
September
date?
2nd.
What
Yeah.
is it you
Yeah.
hope that
Yep.
leaders and others will be able to take away once they have the book in hand?
Yeah. Well, number one is, in the book, I talk about a feature that was added to the roads in the 1950s in New Jersey. And that feature that was added was the rumble strip. Now, the rumble strip helped people from stop drifting into other lanes and creating deaths and crashes. People were drifting because they were so familiar with the road that you kind of don't pay attention. It's like us who drive to an office or a place, and then we get there and we're like, well, wait a minute, how do we get here? We make these automatic decisions. But when they instituted the rumble strip in 1952 in New Jersey, what happened, that little rumble strip in the road created enough alertness to get the person back on track. And so what happened is when the rumble strips went into place, it reduced crashes by 70% on those roads. So my goal with this book is to be a rumble strip for leaders, is to give you that little shake up, to get you back on track, to make sure that you're going the right direction. So in this book, I give practical application, I give tools, I give resources, give assessments in order for you to help get back on track and get your fire lit again. That's the goal.
The second word of the book, Mr. Robinson, from drift, kind of hits upon an area that I think I've taken away in my career in life. Not at the time, I wish I had, right? But it's looking back 10, 20, 30 years. The word drift kind of says to me that these things happen and sometimes we're not aware it's taking place until we're at that point of maybe we're miserable or how did I get so off track? And it seems like it's too big to get our arms around again.
Yeah, absolutely. Drift is subtle. I mean, it is very subtle, the way that drift happens. I give an example of that, and I shared inside the book, but I was drifting in my efforts as a communicator. Each and every single week, I communicate. I speak to hundreds of people every single week. There's not a week that goes by where I'm not delivering some type of communication piece, whether it's a keynote, a webinar, a sales presentation, a teaching presentation. Every single week I do it. I've done it for well over a decade and a half now, and I found myself drifting about a year ago, which was the impetus of this book. I was with John Maxwell in Cambodia, and I was there, and we were going to speak for 2,500 people, and I had went up there, and I was on stage. John was with me, and things started to go wrong on stage, which is fine because I'm a speaker and things go wrong. The clickers don't work. The slides look a mess. I'm speaking with an interpreter, so there's a rhythm issue there. But I push through all those things and I overcome the average ear. And of course, I have a line of people lined up saying, Chris, your message was so great. Thank you. It impacted me. But then I went to go speak with one of the greatest communicators on the planet right now, John Maxwell. And I'm sitting down at dinner with them, and I did the bold thing, as you should do as you're around, people that are further along the journey than you. And I began to ask him, hey, give me some feedback on my presentation today. And I mean, oh my goodness, you mentioned the 16 Laws of Communication book that he wrote, but we actually wrote it that night at the table because he gave me so many different things to work on. But what happened was there was nothing on the list that I did not know or that I did not do at some point in time. But what happened was I had communicated so many times that I didn't put in the preparation for that specific talk like I did when I first began, like I did when I was going to go speak at a Chamber of Commerce or a spaghetti dinner at a Rotary Club. And I would spend, countless time working on, each part of the presentation. And what I realized, I went, oh my goodness, I'm in a drift. I'm being complacent. And so what that did was that re-fired me up to go, okay, I've got to break this. What do I need to do? I need to sharpen this gift that I've been given of communication, and I need to get back into the cycle. So I did. I took the 7 steps that I outlined in the book. I got clear on what I wanted. I began to gather and go back to books that I had read in the past on communication. I began to, line up that information and filter it properly. I began to get some guidance. I began being coached by comedian Michael Jr., getting feedback from Roddy Galbraith to help sharpen me. I began to get around some other speakers to say, hey, what are you seeing? I began to take action on what I was learning from those people. And then we're evaluating. We're taking a look at the video footage and going, how can we tweak this? How can we change this? And that cycle over and over again just truly helped me snap out of that. And it works in any area of life. That's what I love about it.
Well, I love the concept and the title, and Chris Robinson's bringing the book, and we're going to dive further into it. But if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President with the Maxwell Leadership Team. And Chris is about to come out with a brand new book. Is this your first book, Chris? What number book is this for you?
Yeah, this is the first published book, the first intentional book. There's a workbook out there I got somewhere on the planet, but don't worry about that.
You don't want us Googling that or Amazon.
Right. And so, but yeah, this is published by Maxwell Leadership, and the time and intention and the work that we put into this one, couldn't be more proud of it. I think it's, John Maxwell teases us all, you're never good the first time. I'm telling you, this one is good. And so I'm very, very excited about it.
I have no doubt about that. I'm excited, looking forward to it. Chris, why now? Why is now the right time for Chris Robinson to put out his first book?
Yeah, well, it really worked out because I did not have an intention of putting out this first book. How this happened was I went to go work with a consultant and friend of mine, Rory Vaden. Rory Vaden is a phenomenal communicator. He's a great author, New York Times bestselling author. And I went to go sit in a 2-day consulting deal with him and about 4 other authors. And I didn't have any intention on writing a book. What I was looking for was, hey, how can I get some tools and resources for our Maxwell team members that I think would be good? And, he said, Chris, why don't you just think about something that you would write. And I kind of had a dilemma because, my primary role is to serve Maxwell Leadership Certified members. And, so the easy thing to do would be to write a book that would attract and draw other Maxwell coaches. I said, but I don't really want to write a book on that at this moment to be a first one. So I've got a second audience that, what would that audience be? And I said, well, I keynote speak and I speak for conferences, events, leaders, teams, but I don't want to build one for myself. I don't really want to go out and just build my own Chris Robinson brand right now. And I said, so I've kind of got 2 different audiences. I said, well, I want to serve both audiences at the same time with content that the Maxwell member can go out and utilize with their clients that would serve the end client as well too, but would also be great for the Maxwell member. And so on the first day I had nothing and I just kind of dismissed it and said, I got to make a choice and I can't decide that. Well, I'm sitting on waiting on a bench, waiting for the Uber to come pick me up to take me back over to the office that morning. And then the idea hit me like a lightning bolt because we had talked about the issues, the problems that we wanted to solve. The initial problem that I wanted to solve was underperformance. But then, we sat there and the room was brainstorming. We were like, what's the root cause of underperformance? And the root cause, if we go down to the root, the root cause of underperformance is complacency. And okay, complacency is the root, but how do you overcome that? And what have you done, Chris, to overcome that? So as I'm sitting on that bench waiting on the Uber, I had the whole 7-step framework in about less than 5 minutes. I go into the office, I write this on the whiteboard, and everybody just said, yes, that's it. That's what people need. Nobody's talking about complacency right now, but it is really a problem that's holding people back. And so here we are, jumped into that process, began to write, working with the writer. And I mean, it was amazing how we were able to pull it together. So it's been fun.
Well, what an amazing, great story. And that comes from one of the first things I learned from this gentleman on the screen is to learn a little, do a little, learn a little more, do a little more, right? And that's the process you finally have got to that point, right? It's time to do that little more.
Right.
I love that. Thank you for joining us on Leadership Synergized. A huge thank you to my guest, Mr. Chris Robinson, Executive Vice President of Maxwell Leadership. Be sure to check out his powerful new book, Drift to Drive, a high achiever's guide to breaking the chains of complacency. If you found value in today's episode, share it with a fellow leader, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to grow.